Well, my wife Nail has actually lost 9 pounds without really even doing anything extreme or dieting or anything like that. The only two things that we've actually made a change in our lives is, number one, we've eaten a Botswana diet. A lot of the foods that we've been eating have been protein rich, vegetable rich, not real high in carbohydrates. But I think the key is my wife really likes her home cuisine, and I think that makes a huge difference in your eating. I learned this kind of on my own when I was in Botswana. One of my favorite meals, American meals, is just burritos, just standard burritos, Americanized Mexican burritos. And I had a hard time in Botswana finding tortillas. But when I finally found them, I think I found them at Airport Junction Mall, and I actually made some burritos. It was so satisfying to me. I didn't have to gorge myself on them, but just eating them, just eating a little bit, was really pleasing to me. And I heard the number one difficulty in weight loss is portioning. A lot of people don't lose weight because they eat too big of portions, and they think they're actually dieting, and that actually hurts them. But what I've noticed is my wife has not been eating huge portions when she eats her Botswana food, but she's so satisfied, so she's not craving quite as much as before. I think number one is it's a meat-rich diet, but also just number two, it's just so pleasing to her. So over the last 2 weeks, I've been almost exclusively cooking out of my wife's cookbook, which is this. Has various recipes in it and things like that. I'm actually going to be cooking something called Botswana, what I call Botswana pasta, or Botswana spaghetti. It's very similar to Italian spaghetti, but it kind of has a Botswana twist. What I've noticed is South African cooking uses a lot of green peppers, bell peppers, so I'm using that. That's one of the key ingredients, as well as onions. And over the past week or so, I've gotten in the kick of grounding my own beef. So this top sirloin was actually on sale throughout the whole town for like $4 a pound this last week. So I bought some top sirloin. I'll be grounding that up, and it turns into a really good ground beef or hamburger. I'll be using that for my Botswana spaghetti. In addition to that, we'll be eating butternut squash and beetroot. So come join us. I'm going to start out by cooking the butternut squash. Basically, I have some cinnamon in there with a tablespoon of butter and the tablespoon of honey and a cup of water. Now I'll be prepping the meat. I'm just going to cube this into 1-inch cubes.
Forever, I watch you as you...
Okay, so now I cubed up the meat. I'm going to stick it in the freezer for 15 to 20 minutes. Doing so helps firm up the meat, so when I run it through the food processor, it comes out really nice, at real nice texture. Now, I tried this before on stewed meat, and a lot of you probably know that stewed meat is like really tough, but it came out really nice. It cooked really nicely when I cooked that as a ground beef or hamburger. So I'm looking forward to this top sirloin. I bet it's going to be even better. Now, one of you made a comment last time I was cutting on the video saying I need to curl back my fingers, and sure enough, the day after I read that comment, I almost sliced my finger off. So I'm trying to be a little more careful when I prep the food. While the meat is in the freezer, I'm going to go ahead and finish off the beetroots. I cooked these a few hours ago and have had them in the refrigerator since then. Now I'm going to go ahead and grate them up and season them with vinegar and put them back in the refrigerator. Well, I still have a few minutes before the meat is ready to be taken out of the freezer, so I'm going to go ahead and get a jump on the spices, the seasonings. I'm a real big fan of Botswana cooking or Southern African cooking for a couple reasons. Number one, there's a lot of meat to it, but also number two is I like the spices a lot. When I was back in Botswana, we bought some Robertson spices, and they had some really nice spice packets, barbecue spice, steaks and chops recipe, steaks and chop spices, and then something called shinyama or shinsama or something like that. And I really like those spices. It's a real strong salt type spice. To me, it's like a part salt, part paprika, and maybe some other things added into it. We haven't bought any of that since we've gotten back to the United States. We were thinking, actually we brought a whole bunch back on the airplane, but we used those up probably about 8 months ago. So what I've tried to do is I try to imitate those, and the way I do that is I add a lot of salt, add some curry powder, paprika, and then also turmeric. So that's what I'm going to do right now is just get like a base of spices going, and that way all I have to do is make some fine adjustments as I go forward. So here I am. So for today's recipe, I'll be adding some salt, curry powder, turmeric, and then paprika. So right now I have about a tablespoon of salt in here, tablespoon of curry powder, probably 1 teaspoon of turmeric, 1 teaspoon of paprika, and I'll go ahead and add some salt and pepper as we go along. Seasoning salt I'll probably add on also, and then I'll probably add some garlic powder and just make some fine-tuned adjustments as I go along. But at least this gets a start on it. Meanwhile, the butternut squash is almost ready. I went ahead and smashed it up. Now I'm just going to fry it off, fry the excess moisture off, and it should be all ready. Alright, here's the food processor. Now I'm ready to grind up the meat. Ma.
How long is it going to take? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sleep.
Okay.
I'm feeling sick.
I'm sorry, baby.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling better every hour.
Really?
Although I'm getting a little tired now, but we'll see.
Yeah. My nose congested. My thing bad. Well, I'm going to take it. I'm going to let them call me, okay?
Okay. And there's the final product. It looks really good, and like I said, the last batch I made was just with beef stew meat, and it came out really nice. I think this top sirloin might come out even better, and like I said, this was on sale for about $4.28 a pound, and so I'm looking forward to see how it tastes. I don't know if it's any better, but it sure tastes really good. So we'll see how it goes on today's meal. I'm now going to start making the sauce. I'm going to start cooking the vegetables and the meat and the spices together, and then add some tomato sauce and tomato paste a little bit later on. While the sauce is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and start preparing the pasta. And today's pasta is going to be ziti pasta. Here's the finished product of the sauce. It tastes pretty good. I'm just going to add a little salt and pepper to it, and then allow some of the moisture to cook off of it. Meanwhile, the water is almost ready for the pasta. Okay, this is the final product. To me it tastes good, but let's see how the rest of the family likes it. And this is Michael's portion right now. He's in my arms right now. He's ready to eat and to have his snack.
Daddy, is pasta just cold?
It's pasta with corn in it. Yeah, the boys really like the corn in it. So I've added that into it.
Daddy, that's squash?
That's squash. You like squash?
Yes.
Mikey really likes this meal. There's a lot of nutrients in it. I like it a lot because of that. And he took the fork out of my hands and he wants to eat on his own. You like it, Michael?
Yes.
Yes.
I want pasta.
Pasta.
I want meat.
I want pasta. I want meat. Do you want squash?
Yes.
How you like it, Josie?
I like. Mama. I like pasta.
Like the pasta. Can how do you like it?
I like pasta.
This is great. This is good.